Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And today we're going to go quickly over the history of Attar collection by Areej Le Dore and kind of see what was his point of releasing this specific style of perfumery, or I should say Attar, in form of fragrances. So this collection was his try to resurrect this dying tradition of Indian attars. And what you get with this collection is pretty much attar in form of fragrances. They are highly concentrated and dense. With current niche fragrances, we have many synthetic molecules replacing natural ingredients, and it's kind of becoming a business instead of an art. And unfortunately, the same thing is happening in India with the attar industry. It's not easy to sell sandalwood-based attars. They cost a lot of money. The price of high-quality sandalwood and the process involved to distillate them properly make it a very daunting task, which Russian Adam is the master of sandalwood distillation himself. And because of that, sandalwood is being replaced with synthetic alternatives. And the history of this beautiful natural art distillation is dying out. This was Russian Adam's last try to preserve this tradition in some ways and recreate them from scratch and to represent this collection to modern culture with a modern twist. So he chose and selected some of the best, some of the most famous Indian attars, Indian ingredients, and used them as the main focus of every single composition in this collection. As I mentioned earlier, his plan was to resurrect this form of ancient perfumery and give it a new birth and a new look. By doing so, he was hoping perhaps people all around the world would become interested to learn about this amazing culture. Try to appreciate it by seeing it in a different light or seeing it from a different new angle. Probably people would find something new in their fragrance journey, something more with personality, character, and history. And from what I've been seeing, some people chose Al Majmua because they like classical green chypres. Some people like Gold Hina because they like this fresh floral summery type of a scent. Some chose Beauty and the Beast or Omoto Coco for their heavy, woody, animalic oriental nature. Alright, so we are going to start with Al Majmua, which I have it here. And it's a gorgeous fragrance. It is very famous Indian attar. Again, very challenging, very green, very bitter, very intense. And unfortunately, it is associated with older generation, not much appreciated by younger people or modern people. To me, this one is a beauty because it just has, again, that vintage aura about it that I truly love when it comes to perfumery. But there's something about it that kind of reminds me, and the best way that I can explain it to people that haven't smelled this, I would say anyone that has tried Apex by Roger Parfum, and they want something that's more intense and has more of like a vintage aura about it, I would say they should definitely try Al Majmua because it does have that green bitterish kind of a mossy aura about it. But yet there's something about it that's kind of leathery, but it's very beautiful, very heavy, very sophisticated kind of a scent. And yeah, you can definitely tell it's very high quality. It's definitely top shelf kind of fragrance, very beautiful. And instead of fragrance, I should say attar in form of fragrance. Yeah, this is definitely very complex, and I can see why not a lot of people got into this. It also has that vintage aura about it. But to me, it's just very well done. And I do really enjoy this one. It's very beautiful. It's very classic smelling type of a scent, or I should say classical perfumery type of a fragrance. Again, when it comes to doing my videos, I always talk to the actual perfumers. So I spoke to Russian Adam for long hours to kind of find out how he actually did this fragrance, is the process of it. So he took this attar that consists of green kush, which is green Indian vetiver, very rooty, grassy, herbaceous type of a smell, very fresh, and also consists of patchouli, sandalwood, and various exotic flowers like kava flower, pandanus flower, very unique tropical exotic type of smelling flowers, very fruity, fresh, again, slightly mushroomy, slightly maybe even animalic. So he took this traditional attar and again placed it in the more modern chypre structure with cedarwood, oak moss, and iris in the base, creating this very luxurious, woody, mossy type of a base, very common for modern and classical type of chypre fragrances. But in the top of this Attar fragrance, he placed a very bright, very soft, sparkly, playful chypre type of notes, consisting of bergamot and black currant. Now, something interesting about black currant. So black currant is giving this musky vibe. So many people mentioning that it's quite musky. When I was reading the reviews, a lot of people mentioned that this kind of smells very musky. Some say it smells quite animalic or even maybe slightly pissy. I would definitely agree with the pissy part of it, because black currant actually does have or creates that kind of an aura or nuance in the fragrance, does have that animalic kind of a pissy vibe to it, which you definitely get this on top of this fragrance. Again, at the end of the day, it comes to what your nose is used to. And these attars that come in form of fragrances are definitely made for fragrance connoisseurs. And to me, this really doesn't smell that animalic. I mean, I smelled way more animalic fragrances than this one. This one is actually very beautiful. It does have definitely a vintage aura about it. And it's definitely musky. I definitely smell the oak moss in here and the fresh notes, the fruity notes, the flowers. It's very beautiful kind of a scent. So again, I think at the end of the day, even though we all are here and we try to review fragrances, it all depends on your nose, what you're used to. People that are used to designer fragrances or people that don't use any fragrances at all, when they smell this, they're probably not going to like this. And people that are like me, that they smell fragrances all day long and all kinds of fragrances, and they, burn oud and all that kind of stuff, when they smell something like this, it's not a big deal. It's not like a hardcore kind of fragrance that is, oh my God, it's so stinky or it's so vintage smelling. So to me, I think this is very beautiful. It's a gorgeous chypre type of a scent. It does have a vintage aura about it, but with a modern twist. All right, so next we have Gul Hina. Now this one is very beautiful, and it's beautiful right from the first spray. There's really nothing animalic about this fragrance. It's very beautiful. Again, it definitely does have that kind of vintage aura about it, but it's so well done, and I really, really like this one. It's so easy to wear, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy this one. Now, Gul Hina is an attar based on henna flowers. It has nothing to do with this very dark red type of oil that some call henna oil. It's mostly a synthetic type of oil that real henna flowers produce. Very soft, powdery, delicate, slightly again herbaceous, slightly sweet type of a smell. So Gul Hina is usually distilled on the base of sandalwood, but he personally chose white musk for this particular attar and gave the distillers the base of white musk. So they distilled Gul Hina on the base of white musk because he felt the white musk really highlights this powdery, very soft, delicate scent. Gul Hina is extremely soft and hard to notice. Many people don't know how really it smells and how to pinpoint it in a composition because it's just too soft, just too delicate, and that's why he decided to place it on the base of white musk, as I mentioned a million times before, because he thought white musk kind of pushed this aroma of henna flowers a bit more forward. Interestingly, another distillation was conducted of rose and jasmine on the same base of white musk and Gul Hina flowers. So it became more of a bouquet, classical French bouquet. Then he made it extremely fresh, extremely feminine, and extremely floral by adding magnolia and bergamot in the top notes. So it is very playful, bright, juicy, and tropical type of a sensation. Now, because of this, a lot of people call this kind of feminine, but to me, this one is okay. I mean, I can totally see myself wearing this. To me, it's very unisex, but I can understand it's a very delicate fragrance. It's powdery, it's very fresh, floral, bouquet-like. It does have a tropical vibe to it, but again, with its vintage aura that makes it very complex. I would say that this one is the most pleasing from the collection, the least challenging due to the scent of white musk that's used in here. So the white musk is very big in this fragrance. You can definitely smell it, which is very common, very well accepted, and loved by many people. So it is a very soft, sweet, clean, powdery type of musk. And he felt that the floral bouquet, the freshness of bergamot really created an amazing accord, an amazing feeling, if you will. It is very summery, very bright. It is almost bridal, and some would say it would be a perfect scent for a wedding to wear. It is a very happy type of a smell. Next one, we have Limiti, which is very interesting. Limiti is the most important attar for Russian Adam in terms of its story and the way it's done. It's distilled baked clay. So it truly shows, in his personal opinion, limitless freedom and creativity of creation, that you really can do whatever you want with any type of material through the process of distillation and create something out of it that will smell like you cannot even really imagine. But the aroma that came out was truly mind-blowing. It smells like the first drops of rain hitting the dry soil, and it really reminds me of this type of occasion. The smell of first drops of rain hitting a very dry, hot clay, that's what it really smells like. So they achieved this very aroma by distilling baked clay, and it is truly inspiring type of attar. And again, it is not very well accepted because it's not really a perfume. It is a bottled emotion, just a single note of a fragrance. It is so interesting that on every single individual, it's completely different. On me, it reveals some of the sweeter, musky nuances. To some people, it's extremely smoky. They say, wow, it's so smoky, it's so dry. And now, when I smell it on a piece of paper, it actually smells like the clay, the actual clay that's kind of wet. So it does create different personality on different people, on different skin, on different platforms, depending where you spray it. But it definitely is a bottled emotion. It's very interesting. So traditionally, again, this clay is distilled on a base of sandalwood, and he felt that this doesn't do it justice because sandalwood overtakes the smell of clay. You know, this smell is very extremely soft. The clay smell is very soft, very gentle, very delicate. Actually, this one doesn't really stay on you for that long. So he took this scent of clay down to the process of distillation of dry clay and completely pure by itself. He completely isolated it and he presented it in a sprayable format. Alright, so next one we have Malik Al Mutia, which is my favorite one from this collection. Is a true jasmine beauty to me. I love this one so much, so well done. This is a heavy oriental twist on one of the most beautiful Indian jasmine attars called Attar Mutia. You have the true jasmine grandiflorum alongside with blue lotus and davana. Then to make the jasmine stronger and push it forward, he used Mutia, which is jasmine sambac attar based in sandalwood oil during distillation process. You also get a little bit of oud from Prachinburi province in Thailand. The oud is not animalic at all. Instead, it has a strong woody top notes, which turns very sweet after 4-hour marks. So this is a sweet, realistic kind of a jasmine. Very beautiful, strong on the jasmine part, but definitely very sweet, very ambery and balsamic. The oud and sandalwood in the base definitely adds some woody, smoky, and slight hints of leathery nuances to this gorgeous jasmine. Extremely aromatic with some realistic green facets to it. God, this is becoming so beautiful. It's getting to the heart of it. It's becoming woodier. I definitely get hints of smokiness in here, a little bit leathery. It's definitely sweet, it's warm, spicy, it's powdery, it's milky. I also get this hints of aquaticness from it. It's kind of aquatic to me. I don't know why, but it feels aquatic a little bit. It is a gorgeous, beautiful Floriental type of a jasmine. It's beautiful and it's so well balanced because of that oud. The oud just makes it perfectly balanced, and that's why it's my favorite one out of this collection. Alright, so next one we have my Zorin Sensa, which led a lot of people down, and I can see why. which we'll get to it. But it's a beautiful fragrance, but we will get to it why a lot of people were let down by my Zorin Sensa. Now, my Zorin Sensa is based on aged Indian sandalwood with some church-like greenish incense smell. Now, Russian Atom definitely persists that this has more of a smoky incense on top note, which he did mention to me as well, that a lot of people don't get that smokiness, but he gets the smokiness, and that's why I'm mentioning that. But to me, I don't really get that much of smokiness. I get more of like a greenish type of an incense kind of a smell, which makes it really interesting, especially right on the opening. But I don't get that smokiness, that typical smokiness that you would get per se from a tarry like Cuir de Russie or something like that that you would get. I don't really get that in here. So I don't know where that smokiness is. I get some hints of smokiness that feels almost like leathery, but I don't get that typical smokiness that everyone is used to. Do not expect huge facets of smokiness from this. Instead, expect more of church-like kind of an incense smokiness. It has a very alluring vintage feel to it, which showcases the most traditional way of perfumery. My Zorin Sensa is definitely a frankincense amber with gourmand and woody facets. It opens up very shimmering and radiant. It has this golden silver feel to it, very airy and clean smelling. The aged Indian Mysore sandalwood is so natural and subtle smelling. It's a beauty. It's very well done. And I think that's why a lot of people were let down, because they were expecting this very strong Mysore sandalwood smell. But the Mysore sandalwood, it's so natural and it's so subtle that you can barely pinpoint it in the composition. There is gourmandness that comes from the amber cord, which gives hints of toffee labdanum, tonka-like vanilla, and caramelized benzoin. It has that kind of a sweetness, but yet leathery or velvety vanillic vibe to it, with hints of sensual saltiness, which must be ambergris. There is definitely some hints of rose and syrupy yet airy indulged jasmine in here as well. As it gets to the dry down, it becomes woodier, resinous, sweeter, and balmy, or I should say kind of velvety-like. The benzoin caramel fused with this darker, smokier, almost tarry feeling amber, perhaps the fossilized amber in the base, comes forward and gives a very antique character to the scent. Alright, so next we have Omoto Coco, which is the most gourmand out of the whole entire collection. It's very delicious, it's very beautiful. I can smell that chocolate right away. It's very gorgeous. And I have to say that it definitely has the DNA of Oud Zen in here, especially when Oud Zen dries down. It definitely kind of smells like that. And I also get a little bit of the dry down of Russian musk in here as well, not the piney part of it. So imagine you kind of cross Oud Zen and Russian musk, and they dry down, and that's kind of what you get in here. Again, it's not the copy because they don't have the chocolate. This one is a lot, it's milder than Oud Zen. Oud Zen definitely is smoky, but there's something about it that kind of reminds me of Oud Zen DNA. This one is very pretty, it's very beautiful, definitely has that chocolatey nuances to it, which makes it delicious to die for. Now, Omoto Coco is the most complex and intense Indian attar, known as Amber Shamama, transformed into a modern, sophisticated, spicy sandal and oud chypre perfume composition, but yet it definitely keeps its vintage personality in its core. So as I mentioned earlier, Omoto Coco definitely shares some DNA with Oud Zen, and I must say the sweetness part of it without the smokiness. On the opening, you definitely get a huge dose of realistic, high quality, delicious cacao absolute with touch of luscious vintage smelling peach accord. You definitely get a blend of many different herbs, woods, spices, or essential oils. It has a rich spicy aroma to it. I also get this balsamic, resins, cloves, salty ambergris, spicy and very mild smoky Mysore sandalwood, which is accompanied by this patchouli-like oud. Now the smokiness is very faint. It's nothing like Oud Zen whatsoever. The amber has this toffee from labdanum kind of like smell and caramel from benzoin kind of smell that is mixed with this silver of greenness facet, almost like forest piney-like, which must be the moss that gives this fragrance a chypre style. And that's why I also mentioned that kind of reminds me of Russian musk dry down as well, because Russian musk does have that piney nuances to it as well. The Indian sandalwood at some point dominates this fragrance and dances with Indian oud very nicely. The amber accord, cacao absolute, along with peach accord stop the Indian oud from making this fragrance animalic. There is also this light hint of sensual saltiness to it, which must be ambergris. Omoto Coco is not an Attar nor a purely shamama fragrance, but a modern spin on the genre in a sprayable eau de parfum form, which makes it extremely unique and wearable. I really like this one a lot. Alright, so next and last is my second most favorite one out of this collection. As you guys know me for loving very animalic fragrances. This one here is the most animalic creation that I have smelled by Russian Atom. This one right here is a true masterpiece of your cliche of oud and rose fragrance that is done to perfection. Beauty and the Beast is the most luxurious and costly natural ingredients of Indian perfumery based on rose and various aged vintage Indian oud. Imagine Dead of Night by Strangelove NYC on the highest dose of steroids. Extremely powerful, meaty, strong with a huge sillage to fill up the whole entire room. God, this is so good. So Beauty and the Beast is a dark, sultry, somewhat gourmand rose oud cliché fragrance that is done truly to perfection. I've not smelled any rose and oud fragrance to this perfection. Now, I have to say, this can be off-putting to a lot of people because it's very powerful, it's very animalic. And if your nose is not used to burning oud on a regular basis, this will be very off-putting to you. It's very barnyard, it's very medicinal type of a oud that's used in here, and very high dosage of it, which we'll get to. But interestingly, initially when I sprayed this, I wasn't getting any cacao. I was like, where's the cacao? I don't smell any chocolate in here. And because it has that very strong medicinal smell to it as well, it kind of reminded me of Dead of Night by Strangelove NYC. So I brought my Dead of Night out and I sprayed them side by side. And that's when I smelled the cacao in here right away. I was like, oh my God, I totally smelled the cacao in here. So this one definitely opens up with a big dose of bitter and sweet cacao, which cacao can be as sweet as cacao CO2 can be. But in this composition, due to the high dosage of oud, it became bitter as well. Russian Atom decided to use cacao CO2 because the contrast of the strong high dosage of oud and rose didn't come out as good. So he tamed it with the usage of cacao CO2. I mean, he tamed it with the cacao CO2, which also blends very well with oud because oud naturally has cacao or chocolatey nuances to it, which a lot of people can smell that due to the strong animalic facets of it. Beauty and the Beast has the biggest percentage of real vintage aged variety Indian ouds, a whopping 30%, which is the highest concentration of oud that Russian Atom ever used in any of his compositions. And that is one of the reasons why the oud and rose contrast initially on their own didn't work out so well. And that's why he used cacao CO2 extract to breach them. So yeah, you do get a blast of a gourmand, bitter, and sweet cacao on the opening, and to regular nose, you will definitely get hit with this blue cheese hardcore, somewhat medicinal Indian oud, which is not as strong as it would be in the dry down, and hint that's why it's called Beauty and the Beast. The opening is the beauty part of it, and the dry down is the beast part of it, which to me, it's almost the other way around. To me, the opening is the beast part of it, and the dry down is the the beauty part of it. So, so you do get the cacao on the opening. You also get a dripping honey and jam-like roses that is a bit zesty on the opening. It is kind of lush. It's ripe, meaty, and heady as well. It is just very powerful and strong. I also get this red goldish spices that are lurking their way in, which reminds me of a strong lab-made Hulk-like saffron. There is this animalic, fur-like, barnyard undertones that are pushing their way in. The fragrance is becoming leathery and beefy with resinous woodiness, damp earth, and with facets of dried green herbs. Now again, this is very subjective, but as I mentioned earlier, to me the beauty comes later on in the dry down, where the fragrance becomes sweeter thanks to the red, sticky, jammy, and now fully gourmand rose, but still is woven seamlessly around leathery, earthy, musky, smoky resinous, incense-like oud that has a quite skankiness medicinal facets to it. Alright you guys, so we get to the end of my video. That's all I have for all these fragrances. Again, I did speak to Russian Adam himself to make sure that I provide you guys all the correct data when it comes to all these fragrances. And I'm sure people want to know which ones are my favorite ones. So I would say my number one would be Motia, the jasmine one. Oh, it's just a beauty to die for. Very well balanced. The jasmine is very realistic. It's very beautiful. I love this. So that would be my number one. And my number two would be Beauty and the Beast, because I love animalic fragrances so much. And then my number three would be Omoto Coco. God, it has the best dry down out of all of them. Oh, it's so good. And then my fourth one would be Al Majmua. Yeah, this one is gorgeous, beautiful dry down. And then I would say between Gold Hina and my Zorin Sensa. Yeah, it would be my Zorin Sensa. And then it would be Gold Hina. And then last one would be Lomiti for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful one. And it definitely has that emotion to it, the rain kind of hitting the dry clay kind of a smell, which is very beautiful, very nostalgic, but it's very hard to use it as a perfume, more as like a emotion in a bottle, a feeling in a bottle. And that's it, you guys. That's all I have. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you guys soon with another video. Bye.